Some of us have been noticing the anti-white sentiment, but don't worry, you're just a conspiracy theorist. You can't have racism against white people. White people run everything. How do you know white people run everything? Because clearly, they don't let you criticize them without repercussions. Those of you not familiar with this, Jordan Neely was the Michael Jackson impersonator who got on the subway one day and started threatening people that were on the subway with him, saying somebody's going to die today. And Daniel Penny, along with two minorities, stopped Jordan Neely. Daniel Penny was the one who put him in a chokehold. Soon after the chokehold, Jordan Neely died. Even though police were there, they refused to give him any CPR or anything like that. They did not try to save his life because, quote, he was too dirty. But if you think anybody else got tried in this case, you're wrong, because Daniel Penny was the only white guy. And you're like, oh, Leonardo, this can't possibly be a case of anti-white racism. Why would you say that? Let's go ahead and take a look at the prosecutor and what she has to say about why she's trying Daniel Penny.
It's actually very clear why I became a prosecutor. My father was a Holocaust survivor. Something that really, really bothered me was that nobody was ever held accountable for what was done to my grandparents and everyone else. I was devastated and angry by the fact that nobody, in fact, was ever held accountable. And so look at what I do. I hold people accountable for killing other people. And so this has basically been my life's mission. What holding people accountable means has changed for me.
Daphne Yoron. You're looking at her face and you're saying, wow, she's an Israeli-born, Jewish, saying the same thing twice, anti-white, now you're saying the same thing 3 times, restorative justice, what does that mean? Let black people off the hook, communist lesbian, right, because who's gonna fuck that, married to a Peruvian BLM activist, right, who's probably fat. She continuously referred to Daniel Penny as the white man throughout the whole trial. Why? Well, she was hoping that in New York City's hodgepodge mixed race jury, referring to him as the white man would mean automatic guilt. Why did she pick Daniel Penny? Clearly, she is a tough on criminals prosecutor, right? Let's take a look at a few things that she did. In 2019, she reduced the sentence of a black man who murdered an Asian college professor while he was withdrawing cash at an ATM. She called this, that's right, restorative justice. Who is justice being restored to? Maybe if you didn't let all of these criminals who get booked in New York out on cashless bail, Jordan Neely would still be alive today. Why do I say that? Well, Jordan Neely had 42, potentially 44 prior arrests. And they weren't just little things. In 2015, he kidnapped a 7-year-old girl. This is how you know he was a bad Michael Jackson impersonator, because if he was good, he would have known Michael Jackson was into boys. Although I think that whole thing is probably not even true. In 2019, he punched an old man in the face. And then in 2021, he upped it by punching a 67-year-old woman in the face, breaking her nose and fracturing her orbital bone. But yes, I'm sure he wasn't a threat. I'm sure when he got on the subway and said somebody's going to die today, he was just joking. People who keep criminals in check generally have been white, but now our whole system has been taken over and aimed back at white people. The people who are in charge believe that people of color are easier to control. Some might say they're right. I'm not sure, but they certainly believe it, and their whole plan is to make every place like New York City. A multicultural hellscape where no one trusts anyone because no one knows anyone and there are no real bonds between community members. This is the point. Go to New York. It's total anonymity. You know you can't really trust anybody. When some psycho comes on the subway, you might look around and try to make allies, but chances are they're going to throw you to the wolves to save themselves. So Daniel Penny decides he puts his neck on the line. He said it himself. He said, hey, I would go through that trial all over again because I wouldn't be able to live with myself if somebody had actually gotten hurt that day. So he saw Jordan Neely as an actual threat. And why wouldn't he? The guy is openly saying how somebody's going to die today. We're just supposed to go, oh, that's so cute. Why don't you go ahead and do the moonwalk for us while you stab that old lady? They don't care. They don't care about your safety. They don't care about your safety if you're black or Hispanic or anything like that. But they do believe they can use you for fodder to fuel the racial strife and tension and make you believe that the reason you're in impoverished conditions is because of white people. But let's talk about Black Twitter being on fire, saying things like, wow, it would be a damn shame if black people start attacking white people. To these people, I say, what do you mean start? The predominant agents of crime are black or brown, whatever. They're quote unquote a minority, although they're fast becoming non-minority status in New York. Okay. Then we've got this guy on Twitter saying, now the alt-right is pushing the murder unarmed on the subway because they're dangerous propaganda. Meanwhile, notice how not one person was harmed and everybody acting like he wasn't even there. It's also why we wear headphones. That's New York. Shut up. You look at this video of this guy who is a clear threat. Okay? He's making threatening motions. He's stepping into people's personal space. They're like, oh, he's not armed. First of all, how do I know he's not armed? Second of all, people can kill you with their bare hands, as we can see. Okay? But the absolute preposterous thing that this guy's advocating is that we should just ignore it. We should all just learn how to tolerate this behavior, this antisocial behavior, because guess what? That's New York. Okay, so I guess you could just start blatantly killing people on the subway, and we should all just ignore it, because that's New York. Hey, you don't got to listen to the blood-curdling cries. Just put your headphones on, play some goy music, and go to bed. They want to shove this down your throat because they identify with the criminals, because they see you as a hateful object. You've got to stop caring about being called a racist, a homophobe, a misogynist, an anti-Semite. Throw these away. These are all tools used to control you. And if you start bending the knee because you want these insane people to give you some kind of accolades, you're an even more despicable character. You care about the opinion of people who hate you. Throw it in the trash. These are low intelligence people who don't matter, who have unfortunately gotten power because the powers that be want to use them as a weapon, just like they did in communist Russia. They armed the criminals, they locked up the law-abiding citizens. Why? Because they can use the criminals to destabilize the society and come to power. It's the same exact bullshit they're doing here. I mean, just look at this lunatic that this guy is saying we should ignore. Let me tell you what the protocols are on the subway. You don't get in somebody's space. You don't make eye contact, because that's the only privacy we get since we all live in shoebox apartments that we share with a bunch of rats. It's not acceptable behavior to be swinging punches and making threatening moves that you're just supposed to ignore. If this was a white guy doing this, would you be like, oh, that's just New York, just ignore it? No, you're just saying we should tolerate it because this guy's black, and somehow that means that he's been oppressed by the system and is getting mistreated or something. Meanwhile, here's a clear example of black privilege. This guy can do this all day and nobody says anything, nobody stops him. Let me tell you something. If everybody who did this kind of behavior was getting punched in the face, these people would think twice. This guy's a bully. He's doing this because it's mostly women. That's whose face he's getting into. Or people he thinks that he can take and who will tolerate his behavior. Just Google New York City man arrested and released on cashless bail. There's going to be multiple stories of criminals who were arrested and then released on a cashless bail. And then go on to commit another crime, usually a violent crime. Let me just read you a couple of headlines. And let's see if you can guess what race or ethnicity the perpetrator is. New York City gangbanger, well, I guess that gives it away, who's been arrested 9 times this year, finally held on $20,000 bail. If you guessed some kind of Latino, you were correct. You don't hold criminals accountable for what they do. You release them on cashless bail, and then you're surprised when they continue to act like criminals. Actually, you're not surprised. That's the whole point of this. The whole point is to allow these people back into society to hopefully kill some innocent people. That's the point. To create confusion and chaos, and to make you afraid. They're telling you what their agenda is, right? Hey, if you're an actual criminal, you're going to get away with everything. If you stand up to a criminal and you defend yourself or you defend other innocent people, and God forbid you be white or you defend white people, you're the one who's going to jail. In some way, they kind of accomplished what they wanted with the Daniel Penny case, because a lot of people saw that and they're thinking, I don't want to go through this whole trial. I don't want to go through this expense. And I don't know if I'll be so lucky as to get off as he did. And now Jordan Neely's father is trying to sue Daniel Penny in a civil lawsuit. Amazing how black fathers are never around until there's money to be made off their progeny. Here's another one. Man arrested for baseball bat attack on New York City sidewalk, quickly released on bail. Well, at least they got some bail. They usually don't. Did you guys guess his name? Kareem Azizi. I don't really know. Sounds black. New York Police Department officers attacked in Times Square. 5 suspects arrested, 7 still on the loose. Oh, you know what they left out of this headline? They were attacked by asylum seekers. Yes, because all the immigrants who are coming into this country are asylum seekers. Because what do refugees do after they escape a war-torn country in which their lives were in danger and they're trying to save their family's life? That's right. They immediately begin committing violent crime against the police of the country who've given them asylum. This makes perfect sense. It's not possible that these were criminals brought over intentionally to destabilize our country. No way. That's a conspiracy theory. There is a centralized agenda pushing this, okay? Some people can say we don't know who's behind it, but you know, you just start noticing certain patterns. The Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, downgraded 60% of felony cases to lesser charges. So, I mean, that's enough. You know, we've had enough. It's time for white people to run this country again. Because at least when white people were in charge, criminals got tried. I know they like to tell you that there was, you know, racial injustice, and they point to the high percentage of black people in prisons, and they never look at, does that have any correlation to the actual percentage of black people committing crimes? That's also a possible explanation, right? I know, it's kind of crazy.